What is the answer to that question from our standpoint here in Kawartha Lakes to reduce our plastic footprint?
Well, use less plastic, I guess, is the easy answer. We've approved here at the Kawartha Lakes a voluntary ban on single-use plastics and styrofoam. Everybody's heard the news over the last couple of years where we used to recycle plastic. There used to be a big market for it overseas. That market is no longer there, so instead of people or other countries paying us to take our recycled plastic, we now have to pay to get rid of it. So it's gone from being a revenue generator to a cost to municipalities. We still don't want it to end up in our landfill sites. So, we've invoked this voluntary ban on plastics and styrofoam. We're trying to work with different businesses that are getting on board with that. We're going to try to highlight them. We need to educate, we need to communicate. We're taking some of our facilities that we have in the city, and we're getting rid of our paper plates and our plastic cups, and we're bringing in dishes. And yes, it means we all have to do dishes after a luncheon or something like that if we have an all-day meeting, but we're trying to sort of take those steps to go back to a little less convenient. But how do we reduce that? And nobody's, again, it's voluntary that we're trying to do across the municipality, so we're asking people to do it. I know Sobeys just announced they were getting rid of their plastic bags last week. Was the last week they were going to have the plastic bags you could buy. So it's a big issue. I might go on a bit of a rant and say, we can do everything that we want to do as a municipality to try to fix this problem. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the people out there to, basically get off their butts and do something about it, right? I mean, we love convenience as a municipality right now, as a city, as a people, we love the convenient factor. So we order stuff online, and it's all packaged up like crazy so that it doesn't break when it gets there. So if you go into a store and buy a lamp, you can walk out with your lamp. You order a lamp online, it's packed in styrofoam, it's packed in plastic, it's bubble wrapped. We make those choices, and people can't always look at the municipality or the provincial government or the federal government to fix some of these problems.
Can't we look at some corporations though?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? We are transitioning. The government has decided they're going to transition over to that responsibility of the manufacturers, but they're still going to be creating that product. They just have to take responsibility for the recycling of it. What's going to change the manufacturer's ability or their want to produce that product is market demand. And if we stop buying bottled water, they'll stop producing bottled water. If we stop buying stuff that's packaged in a whole bunch of styrofoam and plastic and comes in all this, bubble wrap, people will stop packaging it in that stuff, and things will change. And it's got to be driven by the millions of people out there. It can't be, a government. We can help. We can tweak this. We can tweak that to try and make it better. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's going to be, we all have to make a decision to stop using some of the products that are wasteful. We need to go back to some of the products that aren't so wasteful and try to make those decisions. And it's hard because we love our convenience, and convenience means waste. And if things aren't so convenient for us, then maybe a little less waste, and that's going to start to solve some of this problem, because it's the millions of people out there that created this problem. It's going to take the millions of people out there to fix this problem by all of us doing our little bit individually, and not always saying, what's the government, what's the municipality doing to collect more of this or to fix this? Well, we can do all these things we want to do as a municipality that we can afford to do. So can the provincial government and the federal government. But I think at the end of the day, we as people have to make some better choices as we move forward, when we buy stuff, when we take stuff back, or whatever it is we do to cut down on some of this recycling material.
It just seems like...
That's my rant for the afternoon.
And further to that rant, it just seems like corporations are still getting off a little bit easy here, because we could create regulations so that bottled water is not sitting on a shelf in Sobeys or someplace else, and not make it easy, because we do like our convenience. We could say that about many other things. People are just going to do what's available to them, and so why not create the conditions at a corporate level so that doesn't exist?
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think some of the transitioning to that full producer responsibility in 2023 to 2025, I think that'll make a difference, because what we're doing is we're taking that recycling and we're taking the cost of disposing of it, and we're putting it back on the producer of it rather than on the taxpayer. Right now, it costs us to collect the stuff to recycle it. Well, we're putting it back on the producer. But if people continue to buy it, all the producer's going to be to recoup their costs is they're just going to add to the cost of that product. So if it's a bottle of water and you know, Joe over here loves his case of water, he doesn't want to drink out of the tap, so he buys bottled water. Instead of being $3 for 24, maybe there's a 10-cent deposit on each plastic bottle, because now the person who's manufacturing it has to pay to get rid of it. So then he's going to pay, you know, $5 for his case of water instead of $3, because now he's responsible for, you know, doing it. It goes back to my original comment that, you know, a better use, he might still be willing to pay for that convenience, but at the end of the day, how do you get the manufacturer to stop? If people continue to buy the product, to me, the best way is supply and demand. And if people make the conscious decision to stop buying some of these wasteful products, then there will be much less of them on the market, because all corporations want to make money. And if we drive them toward a different direction, that's what's going to change this whole, you know, recycling and waste component of our society, I guess.
Okay, so what are some other waste management initiatives the city's working on in 2020? There are various waste committees that recommend policies to reduce red tape at the government level.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just some of the recycling programs, some of the different you know, ways that we get rid of products, some of the things we're allowed to do when we collect products. You know, we need to look at, you know, how do we get our costs down? I mean, can we collect paper and plastics at the same time? Can we collect them every other week? Do we need to collect garbage every week? You know, when we talk about the whole waste management, you know, if we reduce it to a bag a week, can we do 2 bags every 2 weeks instead of 1 bag every week? You know, but how long can you keep garbage sitting around for in the summertime if you're a seasonal resident, right? So it's not as cut and dry as just sort of making up, you know, what's a better way to do it. We need to sort of figure out what works for our municipality as well. So we're constantly looking at new regulations and new ways. Our waste management division is pretty good at you know, looking at what we've just implemented, passing a bylaw, I think, at council next week, that's going to take that 20% of recyclable material that you're allowed in a clear bag, and we're going to reduce it to 10%. So we're starting to push a little more to say you've had your 20 leeway, now we're going to push it down to 10. So, you know, force you hopefully to recycle a little bit more, make those conscious decisions, and, you know, and try to reduce it in different ways. So.